How'd you find us? You've just tuned in
to Radio U. U for Universe. Are you ready? Hey guys, my name is Ruth. You have joined Tune In Radio U, a place where you can find the right guides to help you navigate the spiritual jungle. Welcome, beautiful soul, to Tune In Radio U podcast with your host, me, Ruth. Oh my goodness, I got to interview an absolute legend. Her name is Nicole Lilyan. She is a coach and uses hypnotherapy and neuro-linguistic programming, otherwise known as NLP, to help her clients deal with and come out the other side of whatever food issues they may have, as well as self-confidence and everything in between. She has an incredible backstory, which gave me goosebumps. It is really powerful, and I can't wait for you to hear it. But there is no video, if you're wondering. If you generally watch the videos to my podcast, there is none, because Nicole was naked throughout. And although some of you perverts would love to see that, I'm thinking about the rest of you that would not. No, I'm just joking. I don't know what happened to the video. It disappeared. I don't know what the universe is trying to tell me with that, but here we are. But no matter, the gold is in the audio. So without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Nicole Lilyan. Welcome one and all to Tune In Radio U podcast. I am here with the absolute legend, Nicole, coach extraordinaire that specializes in helping women release trauma, to quit emotional eating, and heal their food and body relationship using hypnotherapy, NLP, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and to dive deep into her clients' personal programming and create, hopefully, new and healthier programs. She's also the host of the Reclaiming Confidence podcast, where she also helps women to feel safe in their bodies again, so they can become more confident within themselves and their lives. Nicole, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We had a few technical issues just before, where this is take two.
Yay.
But yeah, I think we're good now. So, but thank you so much again for agreeing to be a guest on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, second time lucky. Intro was just pristine.
Well, I had practice now, so
yeah.
So yeah, let's get into what it is exactly that you do. Just in your words, I guess, just to get a little bit of a deeper understanding.
Yeah, for sure. So what I do in a nutshell is exactly what you said. I help women feel safe in their bodies again. It was something that I struggled with for many, many years, and I was disconnected from since a young age. And so after discovering that disconnection was deeply rooted for so many years, I decided to take myself on a journey to reconnect with that. And so as a result of going through my own experience and my own journey, I now help women to also quit emotional eating, binge eating, any type of eating disorders, and also heal their relationship that they have with their body as well, because both of them are intertwined in some way. And that is what I went through. So it only makes sense from an integral standpoint to only do that as well. And what that involves is going into the deeply rooted subconscious mind and programming that somebody else has, and deprogramming to reprogram a new standpoint as to what they want to start embodying and what life they want to start living. So they no longer have to suffer and go through a victim mentality of like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? Why am I this way? I'm broken. I need fixing. But actually helping them discover that everything they need is actually within them as well.
Beautiful. And just like many of the coaches that I get the privilege of interviewing for my podcast, it seems to be that, you know, the kind of timeline for a coach's life is you go through the thing that you go through, right? You learn from that thing, you come out the other side, and then you're there because you've got the personal experience to help clients now, right? So I want to ask you, what is that thing that you went through? Can we delve deeper into that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question that I get asked a lot, and I still struggle to go back to the exact thing because it's been kind of like 3 different stages of life that has really led me here. And I'm noticing even right now in this stage of life, I'm kind of birthing a new thing again. But in terms of, I guess, recalling what I went through and what got me here, the main part is my bodybuilding experience, I guess. Before that, I was a little bit unaware, going through traumatic experiences, and that led me to bodybuilding. And when I was in the bodybuilding industry, it started off really innocent. It was a place where I felt like I could belong after years of rejection, bullying, trauma, rape, abuse, the list goes on. And everybody in that gym was, you know, there for similar reasons. So I actually had a lot of safety in that place, and it made sense as to why I was so drawn to it at the start. So it was very, very innocent. It felt right. It felt safe. And that became an obsession, though. So I was in the bodybuilding industry for 5 years. I competed for 4 years straight, which, if anybody doesn't understand what that means, it means that every single week, without missing a week, I meal prepped for 4 years straight and ate exactly what I was meant to eat, not one extra almond. And it was easier for me. And when I look back, this is what I recall, is I noticed it was easier for me to continue comp prepping other than trying to go back to a normal life. And because I was so young, I started bodybuilding when I was 16 years old. I did my first comp. Again, it was just innocent. It felt like the cool thing to do. And I gained a lot of identity from that and a lot of self-worth from that. And as a result, you know, a lot of my self-worth started to get attached to the way that I looked, what I could achieve, how well I could eat. And then I became a PT, started to help other people do the same. And it was all well and good. But the first thing I recall happening was after my first comp, I went through like post-comp depression. Not many people talk about it, but you really feel lost. It's like, oh my gosh, I was so ambitious, driven, and heading towards this goal. And now it's done, you know, because every single day it's a focus of eat, train, sleep. That's it. And so I went through, post-comp depression. And I was like, well, shit, I better do another comp. I can't feel this way anymore. I don't even want to go to the gym. And if I go to the gym, I don't know why I'm going to the gym, because the reason why I was going before was for a comp, right, to succeed at something. And so I continued the comps. And the next point was noticing that every time I ate something that wasn't on the meal plan, unconsciously, it made me feel like a failure. And so I kept trying to make myself throw up. So I then went through bulimia, and no one knew about it. I didn't even know I was going through it. I just thought it was a normal thing, really. Wow. Yeah. And something about that didn't feel right. And I guess through distracting myself more in bodybuilding, I was able to slowly stop that, but I still found myself wanting and having this urge to always go and throw up stuff that wasn't on the meal plan, even if it was a refeed day. So that was the second recollection of when it started to become toxic for me. And I'd say about 2 years in was when doing the bodybuilding for the purpose of my fitness and my well-being started to disappear, and the purpose of bodybuilding started to become motivated by wanting to impress the judges. And so that's when it started to get extremely toxic, and I took my commitment to a whole nother level of food restriction, cardio, doing cardio at an excessive amount to try and obviously shape and build up and get better and get better. And through judges' comments, like you would always get one of two comments, like you're not big enough or you're not small enough, right? So that would mean one of two things. You either have to go on an off season, which means that you're still tracking food, you're not actually relaxing, but to the fitness industry, it gives you the idea that you are, but you really are not. You're still restricting, right? Because it's like, here, force yourself to eat more food, even if it doesn't feel good. Or if you aren't small enough, then it means, well, I guess I either do more cardio or eat less food, right? So for me, it was always get smaller, but maybe like get a little bit bigger in these areas, right? And so I continued to do more and more and more to get smaller, to show more muscle on stage. And that really led me to a dark path where you could say I was very tunnel vision. I couldn't think about anything else or any other purpose in life other than changing my body to win first place, you could say. Like, I remember all I ever wanted was a pro card, and I have so much love for that girl back then and what she went through. And yeah, there was this one moment that did it for me. So for those who don't know my story, towards the end of my bodybuilding career, I got really sick. It was just after I won overalls, the Australian overalls. I got really sick. I had skin breakouts that doctors couldn't even explain. My skin would be on fire, it would burn, it would welt for no necessary reason. There was days where I couldn't even put clothing on my skin. I had to have cold showers. I took like 4 rounds of steroids to suppress the symptoms, steroid creams. Like, it was crazy. And I was still like, I'm fine. Let's keep competing. And the point at which I knew it was going to mess with my career was when I noticed I couldn't put fake tan on my skin. And you have to wear fake tan when you go on stage. Otherwise, you just won't get placed, right? You need to be dark to show your muscles. And so I was like, well, shit, I better fix this skin thing. And you'd think I was eating the right food. You know, I was healthy because I was training. And this was the moment I noticed, okay, training and eating well, I like these little finger thingies, eating well, don't know what they're called.
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks, yeah. That was when I noticed that didn't mean healthy. I was like, hold on a second, okay, something else is happening here. Nobody else could explain it, but I could feel like something was wrong. But because I didn't have any inner self-worth, and I was always externally looking for validation, I had no other choice unconsciously but to trust what everybody else was saying, which was to basically keep going and just keep eating what you're eating. So I kept doing that. I kept competing. And the universe has a funny thing by, you know, getting louder and louder if you don't listen to the callings and the signals that it's giving you to maybe stop or do something else. And I just got to a point where I had the worst night of my life with symptoms, and I said to my partner, that's it, like, I'm done. I can't do it. And that's very unlike me. And that was when, you know him actually, a good friend of mine, Mitch Vicarage, reached out after I did a post on social media and said, hey, look, I actually know what you could possibly be going through. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Like, help me. Because I really did feel helpless at that stage. And the moment that I decided that I wasn't going to compete anymore was the moment that my binge eating actually halved. So that was almost gone. But my symptoms just got worse and worse, right, like after that, because all of the inner like crap that was going on. It started to come to the surface because it needed to be expelled in order for me to heal. So the symptoms got worse before they did get better. And that was something I just had to take ownership of, because it was a build-up of many years of a toxic food and body relationship that did that. And there was this one point in that bodybuilding journey where I did my last comp, got off stage. I was 47 kilos, my lightest ever. You could not spot one bit of fat on me. I was tired, I was fatigued, I was so unhappy, yet I tried to make myself believe that I was happy. It's really weird. We do these things, right? Especially in bodybuilding. It's like, yeah, crazy. And so I got off stage, and a judge who I really looked up to told me that I wasn't small enough. Like that was always a comment, like, not small enough, get smaller next time. You're so close to getting your pro card. And I sat there in just total disbelief. And it was the first time I believe I finally listened to my intuition that was like, get the fuck out. Like, what are you doing? If you think you're going to go again in 2 weeks' time, like, you're going to die. It was literally like this voice in my head that was like, if you keep going, you're going to die. And so, yeah, I quit. And then that led me into a space where I didn't know who I was anymore, because all of my worth was attached to all of those objects and that kind of doing in the bodybuilding world. And, yeah, that initiated me into doing what I'm doing now. So I went on my own healing journey. And then I wanted to learn more about why that made a difference. So that's when I learned about hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, and the mind and the emotional body as well. And that's helped me guide other clients now to steering away from a toxic food and fitness relationship, and start actually finding their validation and worth from the inside out rather than the outside in. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a bit of a tangent, but
super powerful story though. Amazing. And I'm so happy for you that you finally listened to yourself, your intuition, and started doing good things for yourself. It's I come from a personal training background as well. And it's really interesting how, because like working out and exercise was the thing that, for me personally, propelled me into having a healthier relationship with myself and life. But then it's interesting how, something as, seemingly healthy as exercise can become quite toxic as well. And, people can literally get addicted to it, and exercise is healthy, but you can take it to a whole, like, really unhealthy level where, you're creating way more stress on your body. And then eventually, like what your body did to you, it starts to tell you, like, hey, just chill the fuck out now. Like, it's time to like back down a little bit and look after you. Can you tell me what exactly you did to heal yourself?
Yeah, sure. So how can I narrow this down? It was a lot, I'm not gonna lie. And it was so much that I'm still backdating to what I exactly did. But the first thing I had to do was start to change what I was eating, which was really confusing for me, because to paint the picture, right, my skin was just shit. And when I say shit, like, it was bleeding, it was bruising, so inflamed. My hair was falling out, so I was losing a lot of hair. People didn't know that because I wore extensions. And so the first thing that I had to do was, change what I was eating, because what I was eating wasn't just less than what my body required. So I wasn't just malnourished by the amount of food. I was also malnourished because of the nutrients that I was getting, the lack of diversity in that. And because of the years and years of exercise and stress that I was putting on my body every single day, right? So it's like a balance of energies. I went way too much in the masculine, as you can tell, and it was all structure. It was all go, go, go. It was all just, never ending. So much pressure, so much pressure. And so that, as a result, caused a lot of inflammation in my body, a lot of problems with my organs and how they were functioning. It's like my body got to a point where it couldn't actually, like my kidneys weren't working properly, my liver wasn't working properly, my lymphatic system wasn't working properly, which basically means that your body's capacity to eliminate acids and anything that your body isn't going to feel good with, so any toxins, was shit, because it was overloaded. And as a result, it was trying to excrete that shit through my skin, because we excrete stuff through either breathing, pooping, pissing, or sweating, right? And so if all else fails, pooping, pissing, and breathing, it's going to come out on your skin. And so because I was malnourished, because I wasn't eating the right food, again with quotations, because it's all about understanding, listening to how you feel, and then you know what you need to eat, which I wasn't doing that. I was eating what I was told to eat on a program for many years. And so it started by changing what I was eating to first eliminate the inflammation and start helping my kidneys and liver to excrete my toxins again. Because until I did that, there was no way that I would start to even feel better to even then exercise again. So I actually didn't train for like 12 or 14 weeks. It was going into full feminine mode, like light foods, fruits. I didn't have meat. I hardly had cooked things. Just going into full alkalinity over acidic compounds, right? Because when we exercise, we're causing more inflammation. It wasn't good for me, put it that way. So that was the first stage. And then for me, I noticed that, well, shit, I am so paranoid with food now. I don't know what's safe anymore, because I couldn't understand what was really going on. So this is when I took myself through a journey of healing my food relationship to finally feel safe with maybe eating some chocolate if I wanted to, but then also not going into a full binge eat or emotional eating episode, because that is what I was programmed to do when I was competing, right? I had actually linked that in order to eat that food is kind of like, it's a reward, right? And if you don't feel like you've earned it, then you don't deserve it. And if you go and eat the bad food, you make the most of it. That was like my inner dialogue. And it was something I didn't know until I asked myself the questions to bring that to the surface. So I went through changing what I ate, healing the food relationship. And then I noticed that, oh my gosh, my body's changing. And what people don't know is, I started the bodybuilding when I was 16. I did it for 4 years straight, which meant that led to when I was 20. And I still wasn't a fully developed woman. So I was tiny, not just tiny because of bodybuilding, but tiny because I was actually a teenager. So my body wasn't just changing to a normal teenage body weight, it was also changing into becoming more of a woman. And so when I started to eat more freely, it wasn't that I was eating bad. I was just eating what my body needed. And I wasn't used to actually seeing my body the way that it was starting to change, because I was muscly and hard. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but, you know, you get a pump, your body always feels hard when you are lean. And so I started getting squishy, and squishy was not my normal. So that was really hard for me to accept and feel safe with. And so that initiated my journey into healing the body image. And I'll just say a few pieces of that was to witness myself every single day. I had to go through and change a lot of my inner dialogue. And a thing that really impacted me to fully accept my body forever changing was actually understanding that it's not just my own micro experiences that have impacted the way that I view myself. It's actually thousands of years of toxic society and patriarchal pressures that have made me or impacted me to believe certain things about why my body's not good enough. And so the moment I noticed that, okay, this is so much bigger than me, then I noticed that, okay, I can actually be so okay with me, because it's actually everything else as a collective that has happened unconsciously for so many years. And now we've just gotten to such a toxic place that we can't blame it if we all end up with body image issues, literally. We've just got to decide that, well, if you want to learn about this and have the awareness about it, then you can decide otherwise. Otherwise, the world literally isn't going to change anytime soon, right? But one person can change the collective if you choose to embody these new beliefs. And so that's what I'm doing now. And the ripple effects are insane, right? And I can confidently say, like, I never have bad body image days ever again. Like, people on social media might say, oh, you know, it's normal if you have a bad body image day and don't like yourself here and there. And people might look at me and be like, you know, oh, she's not big, you know, no wonder she doesn't hate herself. But I'm like, you know, small people still have issues, right? They do. They have just as much as people who are maybe bigger than them. And so that doesn't completely cancel out the way that I could have been feeling. But I really can say that you can get to the place where you don't have any bad body image issues. You don't, because I literally don't. And people find it really hard to believe. And I'm like, I don't. And I even shocked myself, because I never thought that I'd get there. But this had only just really happened, I'd say a couple months ago. It was just gone, or more than a couple months ago, probably like 5 months ago. Yeah, and I was journeying into that. And yeah, so now body image isn't a problem. I'm able to teach women about that. Food relationship is something that I used to have to consciously think about every single day. But now I'm in a place where it happens automatically, and now it's easy, right? And so some of my clients have been able to get there now, and some are journeying to that place now, instead of having to think, oh, what do I feel like eating, rather than what do I think or have to eat or need to eat. But when they get past that point, it's like, oh, it just happens now. It just happens, right? Because the longer that we diet or have a diet mentality of controlling certain foods and what we're allowed, what's good and bad, we're actually not connecting with the food in our bodies. We're externally doing this thing that, you know, disconnects us from our body, like our inner knowingness. And the longer we've done that for, the moment we do that, it's like, no wonder you struggle to trust yourself, right? Because you haven't actually asked yourself in a very long time, and you don't even know what it feels like to you. And so in that journey, amongst all of that, just to cap this off, it was a lot of me needing to go through fucking it up and feeling kind of shit every now and then to learn where my capacity was, where my boundaries were, and what was good for me. And I wouldn't change it for the world. It was tough, but it was amazing.
Yeah, I bet. And I mean, to come to a place now where you are obviously completely comfortable with your body is, wow, what that must be so liberating for you from where you've come from. And to be able to teach other women how to do that, what a gift, huh? Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it gives me goosebumps. Like, one of the biggest things I noticed on my body image journey was, and I think some people will all go through this phase, I really believe that, is you start to change your body, right, to maybe feel good about yourself, and then you start to embrace body image in the first phase of body image, right? You're like, oh, okay, let's post an image of me when I maybe don't feel like I look as good. So then I'm embracing my body image. But then I noticed even when I was doing that, I was still looking for validation of my not good enoughness in that image. And it was like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that was the first phase of healing the body image. And then the next phase was going, I don't need to post or reason or validate anything or point this out, right? So that was like the next level of consciousness. And then the next level of that again was, well, I literally am enough. Like, all of me equals a perfect masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to say what is or isn't good, or I accept myself now, like, here's me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's just a quiet acceptance, I guess, you know? Yeah, that's so cool. So cool. I'm really
peaceful
happy
place to be.
Yeah, super peaceful. And I mean, you're right, living in a society that we're living in, I mean, I know that I'm surrounded, all the women that I know have some sort of issue with some part of their body, if not all of their body. Like, it's a fucking virus, man. Like, and it's infected most people. Like, it really has. So the work that you're doing is super, super important. What can you tell me what the major things that clients come to you with are?
Yeah, we've basically covered them, but so somebody will come to me because they feel like they're having some type of disordered eating. The main one that I've noticed is emotional eating, or they will sum to me that they're just lacking confidence. You know, they don't like themselves. But really what they find out when they start to do the work is it was never really about that. That was just the symptom, and the thing that was showing. And that's kind of a big brain fart for them. They're like, oh my God, wow. So it's actually really liberating for me to witness people go through that awakening of like, oh my gosh, everything I'm seeing and feeling on the surface isn't actually my problem. It's actually like something else showing me something's wrong, right? Which is really cool.
Yeah, and I guess that's where you start to use that's where hypno comes in, NLP comes in, where it allows you to dive deeper and to get to those root causes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this has kind of been a theme with like most of the people that I've had on my podcast as guests, where, you know, we're all kind of working on trauma of some description, you know, and I'm guessing that this is where most of your clients come from. They've got some sort of trauma, and so they've developed these coping mechanisms. And yeah, and that's where the emotional eating or lack of self-confidence would come from. What was my question? I lost my train of thought.
Go Going into the space of nothingness.
Yeah. I'm really good at that. Hey. No, but I guess maybe it wasn't a question. Maybe it's just a statement that we all have some sort of trauma and we all have developed different ways of coping. And I know personally, one of my things has definitely been emotional eating. I guess I call myself lucky because I've been able to eat whatever I want, and because of my super fast metabolism, you can't really tell, right? Although now that I'm getting a little bit older, it is starting to show ever so slightly around my midline, but that's, I'm actually still cool with it. I'm like, I think it's kind of cute, but whatever. So what would you say to somebody that is kind of just starting to get aware of their own behaviors, maybe around food, maybe around their confidence? What would be your best piece of advice for someone that's just kind of tuning into that stuff now?
Well, not really advice. This is everything I say is more personal opinion, right? So personal opinion would be, hey, whatever you do, don't do the thing that you have already done, because it's obviously not working. So the thing I constantly see is, okay, if I'm not feeling good about my body, first thing that people go to is, I better get back on that diet, or I better go start my 5 days at the gym again because I've gotten slack. I need to get back on the wagon, right? I need to get back on it, whatever. And I go, okay, so what are you hoping to achieve by doing that? It's like, well, then I'll feel more confident, I'll feel more fit and better about myself because that's what happened last time. So their brain has already connected a positive outcome, like actually getting the outcome they want, right? Like, I want to feel better, I want pleasure, to this experience. But what they forget is that it ended in the absolute opposite outcome, and that is why they're back where they are. So that should be enough to know that it is what we call a vicious cycle, right? So you feel good temporarily, but it isn't actually sustainable. So anything that you do not believe or do not want or don't even feel good to do for the rest of your life, it's not sustainable. So that's what I say to people. It doesn't mean like, if you feel good going to the gym 5 days a week for maybe the next 10 years, it doesn't mean you'll feel good about doing that for the next 10 years after that. And that's something to become okay with and sit with, right? But if somebody is going to the gym or dieting again to feel better about themselves and they have already done it, you cannot expect a different outcome by doing the same thing, right? We know this. And so the first thing I explain to them is, what can you remember and how did you feel and how did this actually impact you negatively, right? Because then what they'll notice is their brain will start to wire and remember, okay, well, I guess this is a painful experience, not actually a pleasurable experience. And then the other thing that helps with that is them noticing why they believe it's a good thing to do. Right. So going into their belief system, it's like, well, why do you believe that it's a good thing to go back on a diet or go back and exercise and all this kind of stuff? And they'll often say, well, because then I will lose weight and I will feel better about myself and I'll be attractive. But all of the first answers they give isn't actually the programming that they have. Right. So when they answer this, and this is something people can do at home, and I really encourage people to do this, one really simple question to ask yourself every time you go, well, why do I think that's a good idea or believe this is a good idea? Because then I will feel better about myself. And it's like, okay, well, what does it mean for you to feel better about yourself? Like, what does that give you? Well, it gives me confidence. Okay, well, what does confidence give you? Well, it means that I can make friends. Okay, well, what does making friends give you? It means that I have connections. Well, what does connections give you? It means that maybe I feel fulfilled or loved, right? And so it's like, oh, okay, so right now what you're not getting is not love or connection. It's not actually the confidence or the body, right? And then they go, oh, hold on a second. Yeah, shit, I'm actually not getting any love or connection right now. And it's like, okay, cool. So what could you do instead that's going to give that to you? Because then when they actually start to figure that out and they start to do that, they're actually doing what lights them up. And then when they do that, them feeling good about their body, you know, because they're feeling better on the inside, it shows on the outside, and then that ripple effect happens. And then those problems just completely disintegrate, and the brain starts to reprogram itself just from conscious thought sometimes. You don't even have to go to the deeper levels sometimes, which is why I'm a big believer in not just doing the unconscious work or the coaching, but also doing the education. Yeah. So I totally forgot your question, but.
Me too. But that was a great tangent, I got to say. Yeah. What was my question?
Pop off another one instead.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. It actually reminded me about this guy. I don't know I can't remember his name now, but he went around the world because he had a brother or something that was addicted to drugs, like really badly. I think his brother died from an overdose. And he then, it inspired him to go around the world and just do research on addicts, right? Drug addicts. And he discovered that when it came down to it, addicts, and this can come, this can apply to emotional eaters as well, are using food as a crutch, as a drug of something, because eating food, and I know from my own personal experience, it makes me feel good, right? It said, it shoots off that dopamine and in the brain. And he discovered that underneath it all, like, it's just the fact that these people, it's not about the drug itself. It's about the fact that these people don't have the connections. They don't have the love coming in, right? So underneath it all, it's just that we're missing that very important link of being a human surviving in this planet. It's like one of our basic needs is connection. We are herd animals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We need that connection. We need the love to live a somewhat happy life, right? So yeah, that's what you just said there reminded me of that. And I think it just shows when people are lacking in receiving love and having that connection, it shows on many different levels and it manifests in many different ways. And yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Hey, like, instantly when you said that, I was like, yes, because, and you know what, the thing that what I see and what I hear and just what I obviously believe in is the whole toxic masculinity idea that is currently in society of, like, being strong, independent woman, right? Doing it all on your own isn't actually helping anyone. And this might trigger some people. I'm really good at that, at triggering people. But and I used to be that person. I was like, yeah, do it all on my own. Don't ask for help, da-da-da-da. But that was isolating me. And that is taking me away from one of the biggest human needs, which is connection. And you're so right. Like, with the whole, hold up, phone's gonna die. Let me plug this in. That's the whole thing with, is like, the drug addicts, the biggest problem is, well, the biggest thing that you see heals them is that community and the connection with actual people. And so when you look at people thinking that getting put into rehab and being isolated is a good idea, like, I'm no expert in this, like, yeah, okay, it might help, but do you notice that a lot of people still come out pretty crazy, or they really struggle with human interaction even more? You know, like the scientific evidence and the proof of just a human touch to somebody is just like amazing what it does to them psychologically. Yeah, but you know, if they have like feminine wounds and they struggle to receive, that's another problem again, right?
I mean, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah,
right?
so many.
And it's a matter, I guess your job is to find out what those layers are. So yeah, if you're I did some research on you obviously before the podcast to make sure I kind of knew what you did. And it's obvious from the people that you've worked with that you're obviously good at what you do. So I mean, I'm sure the world is grateful for having a great coach like yourself doing the work that you do. Now, what I was going to ask you, God damn it.
I was going to say thank you, but I'll be the first with my hand up to say I don't know everything, but I know enough to help someone.
Oh God, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And you're obviously aware enough to know that you don't know everything, and that's a great thing because nobody does, right?
The more you find out, you're like, oh my gosh,
the less I know.
Everything I knew before was a lie. And then you go to the next level of it, and you're like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's like the more I discover, and the more like I guess aware of stuff I am, the more I know that I have no idea about anything. Like almost clueless, almost like a baby. No idea. No fucking.
Oh, I love it though. It's such a beautiful place to be, to like completely rebirth like anything you want, you know. It really strips all of the layers that have been unconsciously just like thrown onto you for like many years, and like even before you know, back in the womb, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Do you know a Michelle Masters? She does.
No.
I don't know if I asked you about this when we had a chat earlier, but she does NLP. She focuses on money, like people with like money blockages and all that sort of stuff. And I did a session with her, and it was pretty crazy because she kind of asks you these questions and then just watches where your eyes go, right?
Oh, you did tell me about this.
I did tell,
Yes.
I was having a bit of a deja vu moment. But yeah, it actually took me like some of my programming, which obviously like a lot of this stuff is subconscious. You have no idea that it's running the show, right? You're just kind of blindly going along. You're like, yeah, I'm making decisions. I'm like the master of stuff here. And you're like, you're not at all. And yeah, one of the things that came to light for me was the fact that I was running a program where like I remember, like it's a cellular memory of my mum when she was younger. So I was not even a thought in her mind of her having this traumatic experience. And that was getting in the way of me taking more steps, like taking another step into achieving whatever it is that I want to achieve, right? And I'm just like blown away by this session because I'm like, imagine like most of us out in the world have like very little knowledge about the fact that their subconscious is running the show, and that we have all these subconscious programs running the show, and even things that may not even have happened to us personally. You know, it's like ancestral trauma.
It's not your personal programming. It's ancestral programming. Yeah.
It's so nuts, man. Like it's so nuts. Like that was I don't know if I said this to you, but it was one of the most horrific and enlightening things that I've ever done. Because
both ends of the spectrum.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing so much work in this past year on myself, and I fucking love it, right? I love it. I've discovered so many things. I've like released quite a bit of trauma and all that sort of stuff. And I think maybe to some people to have known what I've done to do the work, they would probably be like, why the fuck would anyone do that to themselves? But I'm just like, bring it. Like, I think it's the most beautiful thing ever to discover all these hidden parts of yourself and create a better life for yourself. Because yeah, there's the subconscious program. It's doing the work and it's doing everything you don't even realize. But yeah, it's a journey. It's really cool. Nicole, tell me what you think is going on in the world right now. What's your take on it?
What do I think is going on in the world right now? Interesting question. I don't actually, here's the funny thing, right? I'm kind of one of those people who I don't follow mainstream media at all.
Smart.
So even when COVID happened, at the start, I was like, so what's happening? I was like so oblivious. And some people would call it ignorance, but it made my soul happy. I was sorry. I just, I couldn't care any less. But and again, like trigger warning, like I actually didn't believe in COVID, like ever. I believe there's a whole conspiracy behind it anyways, but we won't go into that.
Well, we can.
You know what?
I'm all down with conspiracy theories, man.
It's so interesting that that was the first thing that came to mind when you're like, what do you think's going on in the world?
Conspiracies.
Yeah, but you know what? There's two parts of this. I think there is definitely we can go down the route of there's definitely a huge rise in consciousness and people coming to the surface of noticing that holy shit, like we have literally been monkeys, to a lot of the higher people, and they're actually noticing a lot of the shit that goes on behind the scenes. I think there's a lot of awakening happening to that. But then what I also feel is happening is there's a lot more people going through a lot more pain than ever at the moment as well. But that is also necessary for the rebirth of pleasure to come on the other side, right? We can't expect transformation to happen without it. So yeah, there's those two pieces that I feel is happening in the world on that, if you want to say, like universal kind of higher consciousness level. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for your take. I ask all my guests that question. And funnily enough, I don't know if I'm picking them well or if I'm picking them badly, but they're all kind of saying exactly the same thing. So
interesting. Yeah. Well, have you because I'm guessing a lot of people know about human design, but do you know about gene keys?
I've heard about gene keys. I don't know much about it though. Are you doing it?
Oh, yeah, I'm starting to go into it, and honestly, it's an absolute brain fuck, I must say, and it's so confusing and overwhelming when you start to go into it. But that's something that I'm journeying in the next 9 months, and so I myself, I don't know too much about it, but I know what it's about and what's even been happening in the world, and on the collective level it all makes sense, and it's just absolutely crazy. So just like a quick little like nugget about it is I find it so much, it's like the next level to human design and all these other things, right? Because what it helps you find are like the keys to the initiation or the activation into the other side of the shadow, and it also helps you journey into the shadow of that thing. So for those of you who don't know what shadow is, it's like the opposite side of the amazing thing maybe that you think is the good thing, right? So yeah, it's kind of like nerve-wracking to be going into that, right? And something this just came to mind, I feel like sharing it, but I had a massive breakthrough just the other day on a bit of a somatic journey I went with one of my coaches on, and I had to sit in the shadow of, get this right, notice how this makes you feel. So we sat with the idea of, I am okay with being someone and not being worthy. So just sit with that, right? I'm okay with being someone and not being worthy. And then we sat in the other thing, like the next layer of it. And it was like, I am okay with being nothing and not being worthy. And I was like, oh, that's heavy. Like, like to go into that space of like, you're actually okay with being nothing and not being worthy, because even if I was in a space, I hope this is making sense, but if I was in a space where I was like nobody, right? Like I feel like when we're nothing, we're actually our wisdom. That's something I really like to channel with. And so if I was nothing, I'm still got this idea that I'm enough. And I feel like that's me trying to attach to like this validation that I am still something. So really, I'm still not nothing. Yeah. And I just had like a massive breakthrough where like I came to a place where I was literally so okay with feeling worthless in places. Like, and that didn't mean anything good or bad now, because I journeyed with that. And so that was a massive, like, just energetic shift that I had the other day, just in case you felt like knowing.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love that. I love all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, because we are, you probably hear this a lot in this kind of realm, that we are everything and we are nothing all at the same time, right? And as soon as we have identity, we have that identity and everything that goes with that, and the ego and all that, like as soon as you kind of strip that away, like people freak out because identity is everything to them, right? As soon as you start attacking their identity, like they're like, fuck you, like it's me, it's mine, and this is who I am, like it's my everything, right? If you take that away, what do you have then? But if it is that not more beautiful?
Yeah, there's definitely, because I think that it's really a beautiful place to go through that egoic journey, and stripping those layers of identity. But then the next part that is even more beautiful is when you can come to integrate the two, because then I feel like in some way the ego helps us create a balance with the masculine and feminine energy. Like the ego helps us assist the masculine, whereas your, like, I guess you could say your spiritual self helps you activate more of the feminine. And so if you integrate the ego, I feel like it really helps you go, oh, well, I can be anything and I can fully embrace that, but then there's that part of you that isn't attached to where that's moving to either. And so I don't know how many people have journeyed into like, past letting go of ego into the integration of ego with higher self. But if you do get the opportunity and give yourself permission to do that, it is something I highly recommend. There's so much more freedom again and liberation in that space. And something I say to a lot of my clients is the most profound work that you do on yourself doesn't actually make any logical sense. You're just like, oh, there's this feeling or there's this thing and it kind of makes, but no, actually, no, it doesn't make sense. And it's so funny when you watch some of my clients' brains go through that process. But yeah, you just, there's
like
moments.
A felt sense, right? With like like a deep knowing that, language is really lacking sometimes.
Yeah. And that's why like taking people like through their trauma and going on a somatic journey, I feel is like one of my favorites, like one of my go-tos, because I'll say to them straight up, it's like something could come up. You don't try to make sense of it. Don't try to understand it, but just know that it's coming up for a reason, and maybe that needs to be validated and that can go away. Yeah. And in that transition, that sometimes triggers memories that they forgot that don't even make sense, because like you say, maybe it was your mother's experience, but that is being carried through on what I would call like a spirit level, right? Because if we are everything and nothing, it means that we're connected in some way, shape or form with everybody before us. So no wonder we have recollections and ideas of all of this random shit that might not even feel like ours. And that's what connected me even more to like spirit. And I'm not religious one bit whatsoever. Like I just believe in like this higher source of something.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're spiritual. Definitely. But I think, religion, I think, is a whole separate ball game. One that I really don't resonate with. But I just quickly, for those that don't know what a somatic experience is or somatic journey is, just quickly, what is it?
So I guess for common terms, you could say it's going on a energetic felt sense through your body, like being guided through that, which I guess on another simpler level is somebody asking you questions about what is coming up in your body and where that is. It's not meant to make logical sense, and then guiding you through moving and releasing that.
Yeah, very cool. Nicole, where can people find you?
People
want to work with you.
So the best place where I'm always hanging out is Instagram. So that's at Nicole Lilyan, which is NicoleLilyan. I'm always hanging out on there, and then you can find all of my links as well on my main page to any of my services.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I've loved this conversation with you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, girl. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode or any of the other episodes recorded thus far, if you have received some wisdom, something that you could apply into your own life in some way from these episodes, and you want to let me know how much it's helped you, well, I've got you, my friend, because now I'm on Patreon. And that means that for a few dollars every month, you can invest in my podcast, invest in me, so that I can continue doing this work that I love so much and bring you the most inspiring teachers, healers, and thought leaders from around the world, so that you can progress with your growth and so that I can too. Check out the link below this episode if it floats your boat. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'll see you next time. Peace.